This week in CIST 1510, we're going to look at Chapter 12, getting started with Bootstrap. We're also going to look at some content management with other content management tools such as like WordPress. And so we're going to go through and look at the Bootstrap framework, creating a web page using Bootstrap, a starter template, the nav bar, hamburger menu with Bootstrap, navigate our style our navigation links using Bootstrap. We'll look at how to style text. We'll also look at writing a jQuery document, ready event, look at the Bootstrap grid system, how to style images using Bootstrap, style a table using Bootstrap. Also, as I said, we'll look at the content management systems. A lot of your websites today are going to use a content management system. They're going to use some type of some web framework, whether it be Bootstrap. A lot you'll see is WordPress. So there's tools that are there that are templates that give you a way to create your website. It's a lot quicker to use a template such as WordPress or content management systems such as WordPress than it is using your text editor. Bootstrap is also a popular front-end web framework, and it's something that can be used to create responsive web pages. And we will look at creating a page with Bootstrap. Now, Bootstrap is used for development and consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's going to provide the standard foundation, which you can use to build your website, and it simplifies the coding process because it gives you the predefined style sheets and script files that you have access to. See the example in figure 12-4 of getting started downloading Bootstrap. An example of the starter template with Bootstrap. You do have several different options to integrate a navigation bar in Bootstrap frameworks. You can create a nav element. You can use responsive bars. You have the nav bar expand class, followed by the sizing options. You can format background color, blink text color for the nav bar. You can choose whether it's going to be a navigation is going to stay at the top of the page or is it going to be a sticky nav bar. So you have total control pretty much over the nav bars. And you also have a lot of predefined style rules and for classes. Two important class values are your container class, which is going to use a fixed width. It's going to be based on the size of the current viewport. You can also have a container fluid class, which is going to set the width to 100%. So it's going to use the complete width of the viewport. Now both of these are going to make an HTML element responsive. Bootstrap also uses anything called a jumbotron. It's a large responsive box used to contain the web page information. To create a jumbotron, you would use the jumbotron or jumbotron-fluid class. So the class is going to include rounded corners. The fluid class does not use rounded corners, but it will span the full width of the viewport. See an example of a jumbotron located here. Okay, so this is the jumbotron that applied to the hello world. It also is easy to add responsive margins and padding to any of the elements using Bootstrap, as we will see in our assignments. Responsive images will allow an image to grow or shrink depending on the size of the viewport. Now, if you want to make it responsive, you need to set the style rule for the image element to set the max width to 100%. So with this, Bootstrap has got the style rule set for the image fluid class. It's going to also set the height to auto. You can apply rounded corners to an image by applying the round class. You can also align the image left or right using the float right or float left classes. Bootstrap does have a lot of classes, as you'll see here. For example, the classes for color, primary blue, used to indicate the primary important information. Success green will be changing the color of the image to of the class to green, so it's used to indicate success. Warning will be orange yellow, it's used to indicate a warning. We'll look at the rest of these in our assignments. You also have the different types of options to style buttons. There is a table on 12-5. It's got the summary of the Bootstrap button class. Now, as Bootstrap can be used to reduce the time it takes to create a responsive web page, because you can incorporate the Bootstrap's predefined classes where you need them. You can still create your own custom style sheets and apply this to the website. Now, with this, you want to make sure that you put that style sheet below the link to the Bootstrap. jQuery is a popular JavaScript library. It adds the JavaScript functionality to a web page. When you use jQuery, you can select HTML page elements and use jQuery methods to perform some type of action. As we'll see on the next slide, some of the common jQuery methods. Now, when you write a jQuery statement, you begin each statement with the $sign symbol. So, example here, the hide method. We'll hide an element, and you see the example of how we write this. We start with the $sign. We put the element's name, the tag for the element, in this case the paragraph tag, and then we're telling it to use the hide method. Same for like the slide up, so it's going to slide an element up. Animate is going to animate an element. Bootstrap also uses a grid system, consists of up to 12 columns across a page. If you're going to use the grid system, you create a row using the row class value, and then specify the number of columns needed for each row. And you can look at table 12-7 in your book for a summary of the Bootstrap grid classes. We'll see an example in figure 12-33 of an example of using the Bootstrap grid system. You can also stylize your text using Bootstrap. Once again, go to page table 12-8, and you'll see the style options for Bootstrap for your text. Tables can be used to style with Bootstrap, so you can use the class value options. To do this with a Bootstrap table, you want to add the table class value to the starting table tag. You'll see here we have the table and we have the class set to table. Content management, this is it's a way to manage your website content. Typically, it will consist of a content management application and a content delivery application. The management application is going to provide the website author the ability to add, remove, and modify content without knowledge of HTML. So a lot of it, especially like using WordPress, is using block content. You'll create blocks, and you're clicking the options to add the tag, and you're editing everything visually, so you don't have to go in and write the HTML code. That being said, you can still write the HTML code using WordPress or content management as well. With this, though, if you're doing it visually, you're clicking add image, for example, and then the CDA is adding it and compiling the HTML code. All right, so also the content management. This helps a web developer create the website design and lock it down. So it helps the novice users to update web page content very easily. Multiple authors can update pages as necessary, so it's not all on one person to update the site. We see some popular content management systems, including WordPress, which is the one I personally use myself. So looking at WordPress, this is a WordPress.org homepage. You can go into WordPress, create an account, and use their website to create your own web page or website. You can also use this with content hosting services such as GoDaddy. All right, so we're seeing some examples of a content management system located here. And there's some different content management systems located through here. I will pull up my content management system, give you a quick look at some of the background of using some of the things that you can use, for example, how WordPress will look. So this is my backdoor of my content for my web page. In here I can see the posts. I can look at the media that I've added to my page. A couple things in here. I can create pages. And I'll show you quickly how to add images. So when you're working with WordPress, okay, these are plugins, add-ons that I've added into the site. I can add images. I'm going to create a page. So to create a page, so it's going to come up with a visual editor, so I can edit these. We'll name this CIST 1510. Now, to add content to this, I can click the plus symbol, and it brings up the options for me to add to this block. If I click Browse All, this is going to bring up a lot of different options. So, for example, this WP Dev Art Countdown, this allows me to add a countdown timer. If I want to add an image or a gallery, I can add my multimedia here. I can add buttons, columns, different elements. The widgets are other items that I can add that once I load them into my WordPress. I can change themes, add content related to my themes. I can also do things like embed my social media links into the page. So for example, this one, I'm just going to add an image. So I click image, tells me I can upload, I can choose from the media library, or I can insert a URL. I'm just going to use one that I've got already. So we'll click the media library. I will choose the latest image. Now when the image comes up, you'll see some options I have. I can add alt text, you'll see the size of the image. I can edit the image here. Give it a title, caption, description, the link to the image. So I'm just going to select this. So it'll insert the image into my page. Once again, even from here, I can still edit. I can still resize the image as needed, change the caption. If I need to replace the image, I can choose a different image and replace the image as well. Now I do have options that's going to apply to the image for editing. I can add a link to the image, text over the image, and these three dots here gives me some more options to add more settings, insert another block before this image, remove the block. So I'm going to insert before. And so here I've got some more options. So if I need to, say, insert a heading, I can choose the heading here. Now with this, see that I have some options here. So you see H2, so I can change the heading levels for this. It allows me to quickly reformat. I can change the text alignment, the attributes. Once again, I can link the image. I can change different sections about the code. Now, if I want to see this as an HTML, I can always click these buttons and choose to edit HTML. And you'll see the code has been written here, has been compiled. So now I can make changes to this code as well. So if I want to change, say, the width of this image, and I want to change the height of it as well, I can. And then when I go back to edit visually, sometimes with some of these content managements, such as WordPress, you'll get this attempt block recovery, where it doesn't really like something I've changed. But let's look at the actual code for WordPress. So I'll go to my theme editor. So I'm gonna have a series of style sheets and PHP files that are making up each one of my sections. So for example, if I need to change something in my theme footer, I would come to my footer.php and make changes here that would affect the page. Now this is the more advanced part of working with content management. If I needed to change the theme of my page, I can come to Appearance and Themes. And in here I can look. For example, let's go a live preview of this theme. So I can see how this would look based on my page. So I can try out different themes, see how they look. Gives me a quick template to start with. Widgets. This is where I can load different attributes, different options to my page. Same with plugins. I can come into plugin. I can come to plugins and I can choose different plugins to add. If I want to search for plugins, I can search for installed plugins to install. Click Add New. I can choose to add new plugins. So there's a lot of information, a lot of things you can do with WordPress or with any content management system. Not only help you quickly build your page, but it can also allow you to customize your page more. Now, as I said, though, that you can still add your own CSS. Okay, so my background here is not part of the theme. So I was able to add this. If I could click on the right thing today. All right, so in here I was able to add additional CSS. Okay, so this will be added to my page. Some other settings I can choose. I can have it set for like a blog type page. I can set it for a static page. Choose the home page. Set the menu location. Site identity. So to add the site title, the tagline, I can select the site icon. Which in this case would need to be cropped. And so now I have a site icon appearing. I'll click publish. So going back to Bootstrap, we look at our page for our analyze, correct, and improve using Bootstrap. This is the sort we're starting out with. Okay, so we're going to load this content into our Bootstrap document. Okay, don't worry, you don't have to load all of this by hand. So let's walk through the analyze, correct, and improve the website. This will be your first discussion. All right, so the first task is we're going to open the index HTML, and we're going to put our name, date, and the file name in our header. And today's date. So this is where we're going to add that link. So we're going to link the file to the Bootstrap CDN. So it's going to be located here. So when we click the link, we're coming into Bootstrap's web page, and to give you some more information, go through this, walk through this site a little. Okay, so this is the link we're going to put into our document. So I'm just going to copy this, and this is going to go in our head, and I'm going to put the comment in as well. We'll put this right before our title, and I'm going to add my name to the footer element. Okay. Sorry, I was overlooking it. All right, so now I'm going to check this. Everything's passed. So we'll go back. I'm going to close this. This is what we're adding, a link to this style sheet, this Bootstrap. So we'll see what our page looks like before we've added this. We'll refresh it and we'll see how it looks now once we've added the Bootstrap framework. So we've added that template into the document. All right, so the next thing, we're going to add the classes to the nav element. So we're going to go to the nav bar expand, SM, and then the lot. So we'll look at our code here. Let's go to our nav element. So we're going to add these classes. And this is, you have the comment of Bootstrap navigation. Sorry, wrong one. All right, so let's check this and see how it looks on our Bootstrap page now. Okay, so we've had a little bit of change up here. So now we're going to add the nav item class to each list item within the navigation, and then add the nav link to each anchor element wrapped within the list item. So with each one of these LIs, we're going to add the nav item, and then here we're going to add the nav link to each one of these. Save time, I'm just going to copy and paste these in. We'll run our check. We'll see how it looks now to our navigation. So now we've added some space between navigation, made it a little bit more user-friendly. So now we're going to go to the header element. We're going to add the Jumbotron Fluid Text Center to our header. All right, so we're coming down to the Bootstrap Jumbotron. Okay, as I said, we're going to add the information to our header. And once we check, so now we've added this Jumbotron. Notice I do have a little error here. Okay, so let's go back and look at that and see where the error is. We'll see the error is here on the end. All right, so the closing tag for this. So it's always a good idea to go back and check and make sure, especially if you have something pop up like that, a special character, go back and check it's your code. So we've added the Jumbotron Fluid Text Center to this. Now, I've already got the background set to background light blue. So now we're going to add the following classes to the anchor element within the header. Okay, so we've already added that here. Actually, I'm sorry, no, we haven't. So we're going to add this to the anchor elements. So we'll see here we got the class for this. So we're adding the button, setting the role as a button, and we're going to add this to the anchor element for our header class. All right, so now let's look at the changes. Go getting started. Notice once again, I've got an error. Even though it checked off, okay, I still have the error that I need to go back in and change. So now we're going to page 2. We're looking at the improve section. So in here, we're in the index file. We're going to add the text primary class value to each anchor element that's wrapped within the list item of the nav elements. So let's go back up to our nav. Okay, so in this one, I've already done this when I copied over everything. So I've added the text primary to this. Now I want to change all the column small 6 classes to values of column small 3. So you see here in the class, I've got the div, the class column small 3. All right, so what I'm going to do, well, the easiest way to do this is use the Control F and start typing. So this is an easy way to find your code. So I'm just going to change all these to 3s. Now before I do that, we'll look at the code here. So we've got the tables where it says learn how to quickly style tables, grid system. So all of this here. So once I change this, you see the change has been made in Bootstrap. So this will add the primary background primary and the P3 class values in the footer element. So we went down to the footer. We'll look at the code here. So in here, I'm adding the background primary and the P3. So now we've added our footer area. Now we're going to create an external style sheet named styles.css. All right, so we're going to come back to our file structure. We'll create a new file. We'll create CSS. All right, so I'm going to copy the comment that we're going to add to the front of this file. What's that? Type my name. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, in this style sheet, we're going to create a style rule for the class selector of the BG-light-blue. And here we'll add a decoration that sets the background color to CCE6FF. Okay, so we're going to create the class, identify that it is a class, the name, and then we're setting the color. Okay, so that's all we're really doing in our CSS. So now we've got to link this back to our index HTML file. So we're going to make sure we'll put it below the Bootstrap CDN. So we want the Bootstrap stuff loaded as first. So I'm going to expand this a little. We're going back to our links. So here we have our link to our Bootstrap. So I'm going to hit enter on the next line. I'm going to add the style sheet. Now I've got to add this class to a couple elements. So I've got to add it to the header element, the div element that created the second column within the main element, and the div element that creates the fourth column. Because right now I don't have it applied to anything. So I need to make sure I apply this. Actually, I have it to the header because I've already copied it over there. As you see here, I've already applied it to the header. All right. So I need to go to the div element, creates a second column. So let's look at our HTML code. We're going to look for the div element. Our second column should be our nav bar. You'll see here that we've got it added to the nav bar. Now I'm just going to copy the entire class. When I apply this, you'll look at the change here in the code. So now I've added this to give it kind of a breakup, give it a little more stylized. Now I want to put it on the fourth column within the main element. So I'm in the main element. And the fourth column would be my tables column, as we can see in the code here. All right, so we look at our finalized, analyze and improve site. So content management systems, such as Bootstrap or WordPress, does make it a lot easier to build a website and to maintain a website. It gives you that framework that you can load in and start off with other templates.